Hey everyone, it's Colin from GIY Guy. Thanks for checking out today's video. This channel is all about helping you grow it yourself. In today's video, we're going to talk about 5 things that you can plant in October. Now these are some of my favorite things to plant because they're very easy, they're very low maintenance, and you can get a lot of good out of them. You can harvest a lot of times before the season's up. So just for reference, I'm in zone 7A in Nashville, Tennessee, and our first frost date is October 10th. And so I might have been a little bit late to the party with some of these things. I actually planted a lot of them in like early September, but some of them I think you can definitely plant in the end of September, especially if you're in the southern states. The first thing on the list is radishes. These are one of my favorite things to grow for 2 reasons. Number one, they are definitely a confidence and self-esteem booster because they're gonna make you feel like a very successful gardener. Because it just looks so lush and leafy and green, and you got the red of the radish bulbs, so very much a feel-good plant. The second reason I love them is they're so easy to grow and quick to harvest. Their genus name is actually Raphanus, however you say that, and in the Greek it literally means quickly appearing. And so these take about 30 to 45 days to reach maturity. They're mature once the bulb or the radish part of it is about 1 inch in diameter. Most of these are probably ready to harvest. I actually made a sandwich with one yesterday. So this one we've got here is about 1 inch in diameter. And one of my favorite ways to eat these is either pickling them. You put them in some white vinegar and add some sugar to sweeten it up a little bit because, let's be honest, they taste a little bit like dirt. But if you want to pickle them, really good on sandwiches, salads, or you can just add them into a salad for the crunch. Definitely recommend these. I don't really have a use for the leafy green part. You could probably put them in salads, but they're a little bit prickly on top. So you might have to harvest the green tops a little earlier than I did. So the internet says that you should plant these in spring or fall, anytime the temperature is like below 80 degrees or 75 degrees. In my opinion, as long as you don't plant them in the dead of winter or like boiling summer when it's 100 degrees outside, you'll be able to get a crop any time of the year. Last fun fact I've got is that these are a member of the Brassica family, and you'll be able to see the similarities in the leaves when I show you in a minute. I'll compare the radishes to, you got Arugula, which is a Brassica, and you've got broccoli and kale, which are also Brassicas, and their leaves look very similar. I'll actually show you right now. So I took a leaf off of one of the radishes, and these right here are Arugula. And you can see very similar leaf shape. They've kind of got the ins and outs on the edges of the leaves. Now we'll take you over here to the broccoli, which is kind of small and wimpy, but you get the idea. Again, very similar leaf style. All these are Brassica, cold weather, cool weather veggies. And then last one we've got is kale. This one looks a little bit different, probably not quite as obvious, but you've still got some of the ins and outs on the leaves there. So the second one I've got for you is sugar snap peas. Now these take a little longer to mature. They're about 60 to 70 days, and they're kind of a hard plant to grow because they only like temperatures between 40 and 75 degrees. Anything really below freezing, their leaves start to get damaged, and anything above probably 85 degrees, they start to get sad and wilt, and they just don't do very well. And so it's a really difficult problem because right now it's gonna be 85 degrees today, and we're at the end of September. So it's like, well, do I plant them in October when the first frost is October 10th and risk it killing them? Or, I just decided to plant them in mid-September, late September, early October, and we'll just see if we can get a harvest. As far as when to harvest your peas, you'll harvest them once they get like plump and kind of a glossy texture on them. You don't want to harvest them when they're still really skinny and thin. You want them to have some like structure and snap and juice to them. The best time to harvest is actually in the morning when they're full of water. They're the most plump, and they'll have a really crisp flavor. And also you want to grow them a little bit into the cold because that frost really sweetens up the pods, and then you can just eat the whole thing. The internet recommends trellising these about 18 inches apart at minimum. It says 18 to 30. I'm like, that seems really close. So I went ahead and planted mine like 4 inches apart, and you can just thin them out as you need to. It's better to have too many than not enough. Better to be able to take the healthiest ones, in my opinion. The third plant I've got for you is green onions, also known as scallions or spring onions. These take about 40 days to mature to the point where you can start cutting them and using them up. I actually like to plant them from scraps because you don't have to wait that long. I've got a video of how to do that. These are actually planted from scraps at Kroger, and they took a little while to really take, but now they're looking really good. And I also think the caterpillars that were munching on them have kind of gone away for now. Green onions are actually a member of the allium family. They're related to chives, garlic, and shallots. So they all have kind of a similar oniony flavor, a mild oniony flavor. And one thing I learned about these is they're actually perennials. And so it's best to put them in kind of their own section of the garden like you would asparagus, because this is going to be like a green onion patch, and they're just going to keep growing back year after year. And eventually, probably in the second year, you'll start getting flowers on these. And what happens is that like the stem, like what you think you would normally cut to eat, actually gets really thick and tough, and you don't want to use it in a dish. But one of these gets really tough and really long, and it flowers on the end, and bees love it, by the way. But it forms like a ball, and once it flowers and goes to seed, there's like 200 seeds in each head. And so last year I had like 6 flower heads on it, and I harvested a bunch of seeds and actually planted them in that other bin just to see how they would grow. So these are the seedlings I planted from the seeds I harvested from my own green onions last year, and they are finally getting to the point where they're taking off. They'll probably be ready to harvest in 2 or 3 weeks. I'll be able to start cutting those. I probably planted too many, but I just wanted to see how the seeds would grow. One last fun fact, they are cut and come again, so you can cut off a couple, maybe a third to a half of the shoots, use them in a meal, and then leave the rest, and it'll keep growing back, and you can harvest again in probably 2 or 3 weeks. The fourth plant we've got is kale. This is a member of the Brassica family. One of my favorite things to plant because it's very versatile with recipes, and also you can freeze it really well, and it actually stays really crispy, and then you can use it in smoothies or soups or whatever a little farther down the line in the winter time when you can't grow anything. So it is cold hardy, but it thrives kind of in the 70 to 80 degree temperature, and then once that first frost hits, when the leaves are mature, it really brings out the nutty kind of sweeter flavor of the kale. So the internet says that you should plant these about 3 months before your first frost, which seems a little weird because they said it grows best in about 70 to 80 degrees, and if you plant them in what would be July, you're hitting like hundreds possibly. And so I was kind of confused by that. In my opinion, I think you'll be able to start them in late September, early October, and still be able to get a pretty good fall crop, because they are hardy down to about 25 to 28 degrees. Any colder than that, they're probably going to start dying back. Fun fact on these, they are a biennial plant, which means that the first year they're actually going to do all the leafy growth, which also means, by the way, that you need a lot of nitrogen in your soil. That's best for the leafy veggies because nitrogen is what promotes that leafy growth. But basically the first year they're going to produce all the leaves that you can harvest and eat, and then if you just leave the plants there and don't pull them out, the second year they're going to pop up and they're actually going to produce a flower shoot, and that's going to flower, go to seed. You can harvest those seeds and then use that in your spring crop or fall the following year. The fifth plant I've got for you today, we're going to call it the lettuce family. We've got arugula here, a really healthy row, just a couple of spinach popped up, and then we've got some lettuce mix and romaine. And I think the dirt's pretty poor because it was just bagged soil from Home Depot. Definitely need a year to build up the compost and nutritional value of this, and hopefully this will improve next year. But you can start harvesting a lettuce when it's about 3 inches long. The leaves are about 3 inches long. I wouldn't harvest this one because you're gonna have a 2-leaf salad, and it's gonna really stunt the plant growth. So I like to wait till there's about 5 or 6 good healthy leaves on there. That way when you cut half of them off, it can still, kind of retain its energy source. Most of the lettuce family is gonna be cold hardy down to 25, 28 degrees. So you'll be able to grow it well through October and maybe even into November. The trick is you can't plant it too early, because plant it in like August when it's like 90s, then it's gonna bolt, go to seed, and the leaves will get really bitter. So right now is actually the perfect time to start planting these, because the 80, 85 degree weather is gonna give it the germination and the quick upfront growth to get established, and then as it cools off, the growth will slow, and you'll get really sweet leaves. Well, that's all I got for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hit that like and subscribe button. I really wanted to equip you with 5 solid items that you can add to your fall growing schedule. With that, leave a comment below. Let me know what your go-to fall veggies are. Keep growing yourself, and I'll catch you in the next one.